I was standing in my grandmother's kitchen on Christmas Eve when my Uncle Randall told me I didn't deserve a single cent of what she left me. The scent of gingerbread still lingered in the air from that morning when Gran and I had baked together, just hours before her heart gave out. She'd been laughing about how I always burned the edges. She'd been alive. And now the house felt impossibly still, except for the voices of relatives I barely recognized crowding into every room, opening drawers, touching her things. My name is Isla. I'm 27, and up until that December evening, I thought I understood what family meant. Gran raised me. My parents died in a car accident when I was 4, just a week after Christmas, actually. I don't remember much about them except the smell of my mother's perfume and the sound of my father's laugh. Gran took me in without hesitation. She was a retired florist who lived in a modest 2-story house in Bellwood, about 30 minutes outside the city. The house had blue shutters and a garden that exploded with color every spring. She taught me how to arrange flowers, how to make proper tea, how to balance a checkbook. She taught me everything. My extended family, Gran's other children and their kids, visited maybe twice a year. Thanksgiving sometimes, Christmas if it was convenient. They lived their busy lives in different states, different time zones, different worlds. I was the one who stayed. I was the one who drove Gran to doctor's appointments and helped her plant tulip bulbs every October and sat with her every single Sunday evening watching old movies. The lawyer had read the will that afternoon, about 6 hours after Gran passed. She left me everything. The house, her savings account, which had about $73,000, money she'd carefully tucked away over decades of frugal living, her car, a mint-condition 1989 Volvo, her jewelry, most of it costume stuff, but some real pieces from my grandfather, everything. To her 3 other children, my Uncle Randall, my Aunt Vivian, and my Uncle Porter, she left nothing but personal letters and some photo albums. I didn't expect it. Honestly, I thought she'd split things evenly, maybe give me the house and divide the money. But Gran had been specific. The lawyer, a patient woman named Miss Whitmore, had explained that Gran updated her will 8 months earlier. She'd been very clear about her wishes. Randall's face had turned the color of a Christmas ornament when Miss Whitmore finished reading. Now, standing in that kitchen, with its yellow wallpaper and the ceramic rooster collection on the windowsill, he was 3 glasses of Gran's cooking sherry deep and ready to make his case. "You manipulated her," Randall said. His wife, Shelby, stood behind him with her arms crossed, nodding like a dashboard ornament. "You isolated her from her real family." I stared at him. I lived with her. I took care of her. "You took advantage of an old woman." Vivian appeared in the doorway, her voice sharp. She was wearing all black like she'd prepared for a funeral, but it looked more like a business meeting. Her daughter, my cousin Margot, hovered behind her, scrolling on her phone. Mother wasn't in her right mind these last few years. That was a lie. Gran had been sharp as ever, doing crossword puzzles every morning, remembering everyone's birthdays, managing her own finances until the very end. She knew exactly what she was doing, I said quietly.
Porter, the youngest of Gran's children, sat at the kitchen table wringing his hands. He'd always been the softest of the 3, but even he looked conflicted. His son, my cousin Felix, stood near the back door like he wanted to escape this entire situation. I didn't blame him. "Isla, you have to understand how this looks," Porter said carefully. "Mother left us nothing, her own children. You're the grandchild, and you got everything." "I was here," I said, and my voice cracked despite my best effort to stay calm. "Where were all of you when she fell last winter and broke her wrist? I was the one in the emergency room at 2 in the morning. Where were you when she had pneumonia in March? I took 2 weeks off work to take care of her. Where were—" "We had lives," Vivian snapped. "Careers, families, responsibilities. We couldn't just drop everything." The audacity of that statement hung in the air. Shelby stepped forward, and I caught a whiff of her perfume, something expensive and overpowering. "The fair thing to do is split everything 4 ways. That's what family does." Gran already decided what was fair, I said. Randall slammed his glass on the counter, and I flinched. You poisoned her against us. You spent years whispering in her ear, making yourself look like the perfect little caretaker while we were painted as the neglectful children. My hands were shaking. I shoved them in my pockets. I never said a word against any of you, not once. Then prove it, Vivian said coldly. Agree to split the inheritance. If you really care about this family, you'll do the right thing. I looked around the kitchen, at the calendar on the wall where Gran had circled December 25th in red marker with a note that said, Isla coming for Christmas breakfast, make cinnamon rolls, at the shelf with her collection of snowman mugs, at the window where we'd hung paper snowflakes just 3 days ago. No, I said. The word came out stronger than I expected. Randall's eyes narrowed. What did you just say? I said no. This was Gran's decision. I'm not going against her wishes because you suddenly care about what she wanted. You ungrateful little... Randall started toward me, but Porter stood up quickly, putting himself between us. Randall, don't. For a moment, I thought maybe Porter would be the reasonable one, the one who'd understand. Then he turned to me. Isla, please think about this. We could contest the will. It would get ugly. Lawyers, court dates, family drama. Is that what you want? Wouldn't it be easier to just share? There it was, the threat wrapped in reasonable words. Are you seriously threatening to sue me right now? Gran hasn't even been gone 12 hours. We're trying to avoid that. We're giving you a chance to do this the easy way. Margot finally looked up from her phone. Mom's right. Just sign the papers and we can all move on. It's not like you need all that money anyway. You're young. You'll make your own way. I almost laughed. Margot, who'd gotten a brand new Mercedes for her 22nd birthday. Margot, who'd never worked a day in her life because Vivian supported her influencer career. Get out, I said.
Excuse me? Vivian's eyebrows shot up. Get out of Gran's house, now. Randall's face contorted. You can't kick us out. This is our mother's house. No, I said, and I felt something cold and clear settle in my chest. It's my house now, and I'm asking you to leave. For several long seconds, nobody moved. Then Shelby grabbed Randall's arm. Come on, let her have her moment. We'll handle this properly. They filed out one by one, shooting me looks that ranged from fury to disappointment. Felix gave me a small, almost apologetic nod as he left. Porter paused at the door. You're making a mistake, he said softly. I didn't answer. When the door finally closed, I sank into one of the kitchen chairs and let myself cry for the first time since Gran died. Big, ugly sobs that shook my whole body. The Christmas lights Gran had strung along the cabinets blinked steadily, white, then gold, then white again. She was really gone, and the people who were supposed to comfort me, supposed to grieve with me, had spent the last hour trying to take the only thing she'd left behind. Around 11 that night, my phone started buzzing, text after text. Margot had created a family group chat. Margot wrote, So Isla is refusing to share Gran's money, just so everyone knows. Vivian responded, I'm not surprised. She's always been selfish. My cousin, Bree, Porter's daughter, who I'd barely heard from in 5 years, added, That's so messed up. Gran would have wanted us all to benefit. Randall's message came through in all caps. Your grandmother would be ashamed of you. I stared at my phone, watching message after message pile up. Cousins I hadn't spoken to since we were kids suddenly had opinions. Aunts and uncles on my grandfather's side who'd never even met Gran were weighing in. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. Hello? Is this Isla Trent? A man's voice, professional. Yes? This is Kenneth Howell. I'm an attorney representing Randall Morrison, Vivian Morrison Fletcher, and Porter Morrison. I'm calling to inform you that my clients intend to contest the will of Lorraine Morrison on the grounds of undue influence and lack of testamentary capacity. My stomach turned. It's Christmas Eve. I'm aware of the date, Miss Trent. My clients wanted you to be informed of their intentions as soon as possible. You'll be receiving official paperwork after the holiday. I'd suggest you retain legal counsel. He hung up. I sat there in the dark kitchen, the Christmas lights still blinking, and wondered how everything had fallen apart so quickly. The next morning, Christmas morning, I woke up on Gran's couch. I'd fallen asleep there around 2, unable to face the bedroom upstairs that still smelled like her lavender lotion. My phone had 41 new notifications. The group chat had continued without me through the night. Apparently, Randall had shared the lawyer's name, and everyone was congratulating him on standing up for what's right. Vivian had posted a long message about how Gran had been showing signs of confusion for years, another complete fabrication, and how I'd taken advantage of a vulnerable woman.
I need you to understand something. If you've ever been in a situation where people you trusted suddenly turn on you, where they rewrite history to make themselves the heroes and you the villain, drop a comment below. Because that morning, reading through those messages, I felt like I was losing my mind. But then I remembered something. Gran kept journals, dozens of them, dating back decades, stored in a cedar chest in her bedroom. I went upstairs and opened the chest. The scent of cedar and old paper wafted out. I pulled out the most recent journal, the one with the green leather cover that Gran had been writing in up until last week. I flipped to the last entry, December 18th, just 6 days ago. Isla and I decorated the tree today. She made hot chocolate, and we listened to Bing Crosby. She's so patient with me, even when I forget where I put the star. I redid my will in April because I wanted to make sure everything was clear. Randall called today asking if I needed money. 3rd time this year. I said no. He got snippy. Vivian hasn't called in 6 months. Porter sent a card. Isla is the only one who shows up, the only one who cares. I know what I'm doing. I know they'll be angry, but Isla earned this. She chose me when nobody else did. My vision blurred. She knew. She knew exactly what would happen, and she'd done it anyway. I spent Christmas Day alone, reading through Gran's journals, years of entries, notes about Randall asking for loans, Vivian canceling visits, Porter making promises he never kept, and scattered throughout, like bright threads in dark fabric, entries about me, about our Sunday movie nights, about the time I surprised her with tickets to see Les Miserables, about how proud she was when I got my promotion at work last spring. The journals were evidence, proof that Gran had been completely lucid, that she'd made her decision with full awareness. I called Miss Whitmore the day after Christmas. She listened calmly as I explained everything. "I expected this," she said. "Your grandmother expected this too. That's why she was so thorough with her documentation. We have notarized statements from her doctor confirming her mental competency. We have the journals, which she mentioned to me specifically. Isla, they can contest all they want. They won't win." "How long will this take?" I asked. "Months, probably. Maybe longer. It won't be pleasant." It wasn't. The lawsuit was filed on January 8th. By January 10th, Vivian posted on social media about her heartbreak over being cut out of her mother's will by a manipulative grandchild. She didn't name me directly, but everyone knew. The post got 234 shares. Randall gave an interview to a local newspaper about elder abuse and how families need to watch for the warning signs. Again, no names, but anyone who knew us could read between the lines. I lost friends. People I'd known for years suddenly looked at me differently. Some believed the narrative that I'd manipulated a vulnerable old woman. Others just didn't want to be involved in family drama. My boss called me into her office at the end of January. "Isla, I need to ask, is everything all right? There's been some talk." I wanted to quit right there. Instead, I assured her everything was fine, that it was just a family dispute, that it wouldn't affect my work. But it did affect my work. It affected everything. The hearing was scheduled for late March, right after what would have been Gran's 79th birthday. I'd hired a lawyer, a sharp woman named Octavia Rhodes, who specialized in estate litigation. She wore crisp suits and had this way of looking at people that made them squirm. She was expensive, but Miss Whitmore had recommended her personally. Our first meeting was in early February at her downtown office. Octavia sat across from me, reading through Gran's journals with the kind of focus I'd only seen in surgeons on medical dramas. After about 40 minutes, she looked up. "This is airtight," she said simply. "Your grandmother documented everything. The loans Randall requested, did he pay those back?" "I don't think so," I said. Octavia made a note. "We'll subpoena his financial records. What about Vivian?" "She asked Gran to invest in her daughter's business venture last year, some online boutique thing. Gran said no." "When was this?" "September, I think. Gran wrote about it." Octavia flipped through the journals until she found the entry. Her eyebrows rose slightly. "Your grandmother noted that Vivian became hostile and said she was punishing the family for their independence. This is excellent." It felt strange, weaponizing Gran's private thoughts. But Gran had known. She'd written these things down deliberately, carefully. She'd prepared for this battle, even though she wouldn't be here to fight it. She leaned back in her chair. "Here's what's going to happen, Isla. They're going to paint you as a gold digger who isolated your grandmother. They'll bring up every time you were alone with her, every decision you influenced. They'll try to make it look sinister." My chest tightened. But I was just taking care of her. I know that. The evidence knows that. But we need to be prepared for them to get ugly. She had no idea how ugly it would actually get. 3 weeks later, Randall's lawyer released a statement to the press. Local news picked it up because apparently elder abuse was a hot topic. They didn't name me, but the damage was done. My photo ended up on a community Facebook group with the caption, "Is this the granddaughter who manipulated a local senior?" Someone I'd gone to high school with commented, "I always knew she was sketchy." I stopped checking social media entirely. Then Margot started a podcast. I'm serious. She called it Silenced Voices, When Family Members Steal Your Legacy. The first episode dropped on Valentine's Day, and it was clearly about Gran's situation, even though Margot used fake names. She painted herself as the heartbroken granddaughter who'd been pushed out by a calculated manipulator. The podcast got 3,000 downloads in the first week. If you're sitting there thinking this sounds absolutely insane, that family members wouldn't actually go this far just for money, leave a comment, because I need you to know that I couldn't believe it either. But money changes everything. The worst part came in early March.
I was at the grocery store, the one Gran and I used to go to every Saturday morning. It was in the produce section when I heard someone behind me. "That's her." I turned. 2 women I didn't recognize were staring at me. One of them had her phone out. "You should be ashamed of yourself," the one with the phone said loudly, "taking advantage of an old woman like that." People were looking now. "I don't know what you're talking about," I managed. "We listened to Margot's podcast. We know how you pushed the real family out." I abandoned my cart and left. My hands shook so badly I could barely unlock my car. That night, I called Octavia. "I can't do this anymore. Maybe I should just give them the money." "Stop," Octavia cut me off. "That's exactly what they want. They're trying to break you down. Don't give them that satisfaction." "But what if we lose?" "We won't lose, Isla. Trust me." The hearing finally arrived on March 27th. The courthouse was one of those old buildings with marble floors and high ceilings that made everything echo. I wore a simple navy dress and the pearl earrings Gran had given me for my college graduation.
Randall, Vivian, and Porter sat on the other side, with their lawyer, Kenneth Howell. He was in his 50s with silver hair and an expensive suit. Randall kept glaring at me. Vivian looked serene, like she'd already won. Porter stared at his hands. The judge was a woman in her mid-60s named Judge Bellamy. She had reading glasses on a chain and the kind of face that suggested she'd seen every possible variety of human nonsense. Howell went first. He painted a picture of 3 devoted children who'd been systematically alienated by their mother, by a granddaughter who exploited her caretaking position for financial gain. He called Randall to the stand. Randall talked about how much he loved his mother, how he'd called her every week to check in, how something changed after I moved in. "And when did you last see your mother before her passing?" Octavia asked during cross-examination. Randall hesitated. "It had been several months." "How many months?" "I'm not sure exactly." Octavia pulled out a document. "According to your mother's journals, you last visited her in person on August 3rd of last year. That's almost 5 months before her death. Does that sound correct?" "I suppose." "And according to phone records, you called her 6 times in those 5 months. That averages to about once every 3 weeks. Is that your definition of weekly check-ins?" Randall's face reddened. "I had work obligations." "Of course. Let's talk about those obligations. In July of last year, did you ask your mother for a loan?" The courtroom felt suddenly smaller. We discussed an investment opportunity. A $20,000 investment that she declined. And according to her journal, you told her she was holding on to money she'd never use anyway. Do you recall saying that?" Randall shifted in his seat. "I may have expressed frustration." "Frustration that your elderly mother wouldn't give you $20,000, and the 3 previous loans she gave you in 2019, 2021, and 2023, totaling $47,000. Have you repaid those?" The silence was deafening.
I've been meaning to. That's a no, thank you, Mr. Morrison. Vivian's testimony was worse for them. She tried to claim that Gran had been showing signs of confusion, that she'd repeated herself frequently, that she'd forgotten important dates. Octavia destroyed that narrative with medical records. Gran's doctor had documented every visit, cognitive tests performed annually, all normal, no signs of dementia. Then Octavia brought up the business venture. "Mrs. Fletcher, did you ask your mother to invest in your daughter's online business last September?" Vivian's composure cracked slightly. "I mentioned an opportunity, yes. An opportunity that required a $35,000 investment, and when she declined, you told her she was being selfish with money that would benefit the whole family, correct?" "I don't recall my exact words. Fortunately, your mother documented them." Octavia read the journal entry aloud, the part where Gran had written that Vivian and called her selfish, had suggested she didn't care about her grandchildren's futures, and had hung up on her. Vivian had no response. Porter's testimony was brief. He seemed genuinely ashamed, but he'd still signed on to the lawsuit. He'd visited Gran exactly twice in the year before her death, once for Christmas and once for her birthday. Then it was my turn. I walked to the stand with my legs feeling like water. Howell tried to make me look calculating. He asked about how often I saw Gran, implying I'd monopolized her time. He asked if I'd discouraged her from seeing her children. "No," I said firmly. "I never discouraged anything. I invited everyone to visit. I sent updates about her health. Nobody came." "You expect us to believe you had no knowledge of the inheritance?" "I knew she'd probably leave me something. I didn't know it would be everything. I didn't ask for it to be everything. But you accepted it quickly enough. It was her decision. I'm honoring her wishes." Then Octavia stood for redirect. "Isla, can you tell the court about a typical week with your grandmother?" I took a breath. "I'd stop by after work most days. We'd have dinner together. I did her grocery shopping on Saturdays. Sundays we watched old movies. If she had appointments, I'd drive her. We'd go to the botanical gardens when the weather was nice. We'd bake together. We'd just talk." "And what did she talk about?" "Everything. her childhood, her grandfather, her flower shop. She told me stories about raising her kids. She talked about feeling lonely sometimes. Did she mention feeling lonely even when you were there? No, I said, and my voice wavered. She said I made the house feel full again. I saw Porter look down. Octavia entered the journals as evidence, all of them, every single entry about phone calls that never came, visits that were canceled, birthdays that were forgotten, every entry about loan requests and money demands, every entry about me, about our time together, about how grateful Gran was to not be alone. Judge Bellamy read through them during a recess. When we reconvened, her expression was unreadable.
"I've reviewed all the evidence," she said. "Medical records confirm that Mrs. Morrison was of sound mind. Her journals demonstrate a clear pattern of thought and intention. The will was properly executed." My heart hammered. The claims of undue influence are not supported by the evidence. In fact, the evidence suggests that Ms. Trent provided consistent, loving care without expectation of financial gain. The will reflects Mrs. Morrison's gratitude for that care and her disappointment in her children's absence. Randall stood up. "Your Honor, that's not—" "Sit down, Mr. Morrison," Judge Bellamy said sharply. "I'm not finished. The court finds no merit to these claims. The will stands as written. Furthermore, given the frivolous nature of this lawsuit, I'm awarding attorney's fees and court costs to Ms. Trent to be paid by the plaintiffs jointly." The room spun. We won. Not only did we win, but they had to pay for my legal fees. This court is adjourned. Outside the courthouse, Octavia shook my hand. "Congratulations." The legal fees totaled $82,000. Split 3 ways, it came to just over $27,000 each. Randall had to take out a loan. Vivian had to sell her vacation condo in Clearwater. Porter, who'd been the most reluctant, took the biggest hit because he'd just bought a new house. But here's where the story takes a turn. About 6 weeks after the trial, I got a call from Felix, Porter's son. "Isla, can we meet? There's something you need to know." We met at a coffee shop near the university where he was finishing his engineering degree. "My dad feels terrible," Felix started. "He didn't want to sue. Randall and Vivian pressured him. But that's not why I wanted to talk to you." Felix pulled out his phone. "Randall's been planning something, a book about the whole situation, about Gran, about you, about the trial. He's going to paint himself as the victim. I have recordings." He looked miserable. "I know it's my uncle, but what he's doing is wrong. Gran loved you. She made her choice." He sent me the recordings. Randall discussing how he'd spin the narrative, how he'd make me look like the villain, how the book would set the record straight, and maybe make some money. I forwarded everything to Octavia. She sent Randall a cease and desist letter so thoroughly threatening that he abandoned the book idea immediately. Margot's podcast quietly ended after the trial. Her sponsors dropped her. She deleted most of her social media. Vivian's friends slowly distanced themselves once the truth came out. Randall and Shelby separated the following year. Money problems, according to Felix. As for me, I still live in Gran's house. I repainted the kitchen, kept the yellow wallpaper, but updated the cabinets. I tend her garden every spring, planting the same tulips she loved. I used some of the inheritance to go back to school. I'd always wanted to study landscape design, and Gran had encouraged me. I'm halfway through my degree now. I also started a small scholarship fund at the local community college for students who are caregivers for elderly family members. It's called the Lorraine Morrison Memorial Scholarship. Gran would have loved that. I haven't spoken to Randall, Vivian, or Margot since the trial. Porter sent me a letter last Christmas. "Dear Isla, I owe you an apology that's over a year overdue. I was wrong to join that lawsuit. I was wrong to doubt Mom's judgment. The truth is, you did something none of us did. You showed up. You loved her when it was inconvenient. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Merry Christmas, Porter." I wrote back. It was brief, but honest. I told him I appreciated the apology and that maybe someday we could rebuild something. Felix visits sometimes. He graduated last spring and got a job at an engineering firm. We meet for lunch once a month. "Do you ever regret fighting for it?" he asked me once. "Was it worth all the pain?" I thought about it, really thought about it. "Yes," I said finally. "Not because of the money or the house, because Gran trusted me to honor her wishes. She knew it would be hard, she knew they'd fight, but she also knew I'd stand up for what she wanted, and I did." "She chose right," Felix said quietly. Every Christmas Eve, I bake gingerbread in Gran's kitchen. I use her recipe, the one she taught me when I was 8 years old. I burn the edges sometimes, just like I always did, and I can almost hear her laughing. The house still smells like cinnamon and sugar on those nights. The Christmas lights still blink along the cabinets, white, then gold, then white again. And I think about how Gran used to say that family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up, who stays, who chooses you when choosing you is hard. She chose me, and I chose her right back. If you've ever had to fight for what's right, even when everyone turned against you, even when it would have been easier to give up, I see you, I understand, and I hope your story ended with the same kind of peace mine did, because sometimes the people who deserve your loyalty are the ones who gave you theirs first, and sometimes honoring the dead means standing firm against the living. Gran knew what she was doing. She always did, and I'm grateful every single day that she trusted me enough to do the right thing, even when it was the hardest thing I'd ever done.